Hello world, hola todo el mundo. This is Dr. Ken, Sexy Flannel Guy, and it is December 17, 2023. And this morning I was at the laundromat and I talk to people, I mingle a lot, I'm an extrovert, and this person was talking to me about the category known as LGBTQ. And she's a Christian, and she was telling me what she thought of it. And she asked me, "What do you think of it?" And I said, "Well, this is what I think about it, and this is what I'll tell my audience today. I think it's worth mentioning. Yeah, there's a diversity of how people express themselves sexually. Predominantly, most people are attracted to the opposite sex, as evidenced by the fact that we are here. We are born because a man and woman got together. We are a sexually reproducing species, so one must expect that. And then there are certain people that are only attracted to the same sex exclusively. That's probably 1 or 2% of the population. I know they told us in the 1980s and 90s it was 10%. That's not true. There's been studies since then saying that exclusive homosexuality probably 1 or 2%, and then you have these new categories of bisexuality and metrosexual and pansexual and omnisexual. I don't even know what that is. They're coming up with words every day, new words. But I would ask the following question: does a man who is gay or bi or metrosexual or pansexual fix a car differently than a man who's straight? Methinks not. Do you till a garden differently based upon sexual orientation? Do you paint a painting differently? Do you crochet an Afghan? Do you run long distance? Are you a marathon runner differently based upon your sexuality or sexual category? I think not. There's absolutely nothing in your life there's that you would do differently just because of this label that we give to people, labels, sexual categories, that it doesn't inform anything. What Who someone has sex with, and there are people who choose celibacy for big swaths of one's life, or people give up having sex, or people never have sex. So, just as there's a variation in sexual activity among our species, human beings, there's also different types of just not having sex, which is, like I said, being celibate. And all of this stuff is part of the human experience. But it's not an identity. It doesn't inform who you are. I think it's really silly, these conversations that the so-called LGBTQ people, some people say the alphabet people because they keep adding more letters to it. I think it's silly. I think it's ridiculous. These categories, these identity markers, are not found in ancient times, are not found in the historical record. My PhD is in medieval studies, in particular the years 450 to 1066 in England, but more toward the earlier period, the Anglo-Saxon invasions. There, in the language of that time, Anglo-Saxon, there are no categories. There are no sexual identity categories, and I'm sure people were having sex with the opposite sex, but I'm sure there was some messing around with the same sex as well, of course. There may have been some people, too, that are exclusively attracted to the same sex. But the historical record does not, the historical record does not, who one has sex with is not an identity marker. It's not an identity at all. It doesn't inform anything about your life. It may or may not be interesting to you. Personally, I think the topic is very boring. So my argument that I made to the person in the laundromat today is I don't think sexual orientation exists. I don't like these words: homosexual, gay, bisexual, metrosexual, pansexual, polyamorous, heterosexual, straight. I don't use these words. Sometimes I slip because they're insidious. These words have been absorbed into the general culture in America. They're sort of everywhere. So I have to work hard. I have to think as I'm speaking not to use these categories. I don't believe in them. And I would ask you, I think this is a good idea. I think it's an accurate observation of life. I would ask you to join me and to refrain from using these categories because they don't exist. So that's all there is to it, and that's all I have to say today. Ciao from the magnificent North.